What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, Mass Media Hysteria. My name is Court. I will be your host for the duration. With me, as always, is Chris.
How's it going, everybody?
And today is October 17th, and we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. Obviously, yesterday was DC Fandome 2021. Of course, it's the second time they did it, sort of a virtual Comic-Con type thing, many presentations. So we're mostly going to be talking about that. We're going to go off the top and just talk about something we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, this sort of looming strike from the union IATSE. They reached a deal. So we'll talk briefly about that. Then we're going to go into, we're keeping it superheroes today. I got my baby Batman shirt on. So we're going to talk about, they did a couple of behind the scenes featurettes for Aquaman 2 and Shazam 2. Then we're going to talk about the Black Adam teaser trailer, the Flash teaser trailer.
And of course, the granddaddy, the one that we all just really want to talk about that stole the show, the Batman.
So we're going to save that for last, because that's we're probably going to spend most of our time talking about that. Chris and I have both watched it. Presumably you've watched it many times
already, and I watched it again just before we started here, so
nice.
Very fresh in my mind.
And Chris and I have not talked about this trailer at all, so I mean, I think it's fair to assume we're both going to be gushing a lot, but I don't know what specifics he wants to talk about. He doesn't know what specifics I want to talk about, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, Andris is not here today. It is his bye week. However, because, you know, if you guys don't know this about us, we all met years upon years ago on the Internet Movie Database message boards for The Dark Knight. That's how we all know each other, because we're geeks, hence this podcast. And we couldn't have a discussion about the new Batman trailer without Andris having his say. So last night I asked him to just film his own little short video of thoughts. So we will edit that in when we get there. Before we get going, of course, want to encourage you guys, if you enjoy this podcast, give it a like, give it a share. It just helps the video reach more people, helps the channel grow. We appreciate that very much. Of course, we also want to encourage you to jump into the comments. Let us know what you think about any of these topics, what you thought of the trailers that we're going to talk about. I do read all the comments and I respond when I can, so don't think any of that's going unread. And we want to remind you that if you do indeed think we have faces for radio, there are audio only versions of this podcast available at places like Google Podcasts and Spotify. So you can always go check them out there. So let's just jump in. And, you know, as I mentioned, we've been talking for a while about the IATSE strike. Again, this is the union that covers basically everything movie making that isn't writers, directors, producers, or actors. It's everything from craft services to cinematographers to editors to visual effects people, carpenters, electricians, all of that, camera department. It's, you know, and they were getting very, very close. In fact, today is Sunday. We're taping this on Sunday. I may not get it up until Monday. We'll see. But basically, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow morning, that was when they were going to go on strike if a deal was not reached. Well, they made a deal, which is great. We've talked about, again, a lot of what they were striking for. Some of it was like a little bit more money, but a lot of it, sort of the biggest thing was more time off, because these people work themselves to the bone. They have a term that they call Fraturdays, which is they kind of get a late call, sort of late afternoon, early evening on a Friday, and then they work into Saturday morning, which of course throws off your sleep schedule, is terrible for families, and people are driving home completely exhausted, and that's dangerous. And they've reached a deal. Some people are saying it's not enough. Other people, one person from the union said this is literally a Hollywood ending. But I just want to bring up a couple.
In a good way, or
in a good way, yes.
Okay.
In a good way. So just a couple things here. The union told the members, the IATSE and Hollywood 13 locals achieved a tentative agreement with the AMPTP. The union, blah, 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 strike averted. Basically, they had a list of bullet points: 10-hour turnaround times between shifts instead of, you know, 6 or less.
Yeah.
54-hour weekend turnarounds, 3% wage increases for each of the next 3 years, increased meal penalties. I'm not sure what they mean by meal penalties. Do you know?
I don't know.
I'm not sure
what that means. While you're doing it, maybe I'll Google it.
Okay. Improve wages and working conditions, and a living wage for the lowest paid workers. The president of IATSE said, "This is a Hollywood ending. Our members stood firm. They're tough and united. We went toe to toe with some of the richest and most powerful entertainment and tech companies in the world, and we now have reached an agreement with the AMPTP that meets our members' needs." Another union leader called the deal a greater this is actually really interesting, a greater gain than we've made in the history of negotiation. So
nice.
This is pretty big. Chris, you and I have talked about on this show a couple of times now that, while it would suck for Hollywood to have a shutdown because it would delay things that we're looking forward to seeing, also, it would have been an unfortunate time for it, because after, not that the pandemic's over, but after those long shutdowns, Hollywood is now sort of getting back into swing. Productions are starting up again. It would have been a really unfortunate time for it. However, it was so important that they potentially go on strike to get this deal done. They got the deal done. So I'm very happy about it. I want to say congratulations all around to everybody. This is really big. This is fantastic. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations. This is something that we both supported from the very beginning. The types of working conditions that so many of these amazing artists and craftsmen and women, it was just kind of a shame, seriously, they were being worked to the bone with, like you mentioned, just with very little hours off, just kind of working nonstop shifts almost, and for very little money. And so I'm ecstatic that not only a deal was made, but it seems like a really, a very, very good deal. It sounds kind of unprecedented, almost, the way that people from the union are talking about, which is good, because I was worried when I first heard that there was a deal. I was worried that we were going to hear that it was just kind of like the bare minimum requirements being met.
Right.
But it sounds like everyone is pretty happy with this. I mean, like you're saying, like the 10-hour worker, like in between shifts, that's essential. You need to have sleep. I mean, that's the thing is that, like, so many of these workers were working like 12, 16-hour shifts, and then a few hours later being asked to do that again. And it's just like a body literally can't function.
And a brain.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
If you're working in the electrical department or carpentry, or you're moving heavy machinery, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is not just someone punching numbers. These aren't just like data analysts or anything. These are people that are working, in construction like environments, building sets, like with metal and wood and carpentry, moving very dangerous and heavy lighting equipment and camera equipment. This is not simple stuff. This is stuff that you want to be on your A game when you're working around. So yeah, it's sad that it took this long to get to this level, to finally kind of reach working conditions that hopefully are going to maintain as the years go forward. But I'm happy that they did come to a good conclusion, and I'm happy that these workers didn't also have to go on strike, because that also would have negatively affected them.
Of course.
It's nobody wants to necessarily go on strike. That's time that you are not getting paid, and for a lot of people, they need it. They need this income. So yeah, it's a very happy ending, a very good news to kind of cap it off. Also, I just looked up what a meal penalty is. It's basically for employees who miss a meal or rest break. They get paid an additional hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a +1 of hours. So they get monetary compensation if, for whatever reason, it's like, let's say a scene is taking longer to film than anticipated and they have to skip through lunch, that kind of thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna move on, but yeah, good news all around.
Yeah.
Well done, everybody. We're very happy that they were able to come to a deal, and things can move forward in a better way. So that's great. I just nudged my mic. So DC Fandome.
Yes.
Chris, did you watch the whole thing?
I watched it. I watched this. whole damn thing. So yeah, like you said up top, second annual DC Fandome, which is pretty much just a live stream of 4 hours of content of people talking in varying degrees of enthusiasm about everything DC Comics, like literally from the comics to television shows to books, podcasts, and of course movies.
Right.
And it, as someone who's not like, I'm not like a diehard comic book fan, and I'm certainly not like a diehard DC Comics fan. I like comic books. I'm not like very kind of brand loyal where it's like I only read DC or only read Marvel. I like, you know, if it interests me, it'll interest me.
Right.
This is clearly an event that's for the diehard fans, and I'm sure some people loved it from start to finish. For someone who really was just kind of interested in the movie news, it was kind of a slog to get through, because you just have, you know, you have a bunch of very, very nice people that are just kind of putting on that faux enthusiasm. Like, coming up next, we have a TV show about the Batmobile, but it has a face like Disney and Pixar's Cars. That's
Okay.
a show that's coming out. So they're making a cartoon that's basically Cars, but with like the Batmobile. It talks. And it's like, okay, I have to sit through a panel talking about this show that I'm never going to watch.
Right.
But yeah, so to all the diehards that loved every second of it, congratulations. But amidst all the kind of, you know, long kind of panels of shows that I'm never going to watch, they did bring up about five movies that we're gonna kind of highlight right now. Only two of them really have that much to glean from, you know, the Batman and the Flash, which we're going to talk about towards the end. But I think there's still enough interesting information that came out about all five of these for us to kind of sink our teeth into. So how do you want to start off with this?
You know, I think we'll start with the two sort of behind the scenes things, because again, there's not a whole lot to talk about there. So let's start with Shazam. Before we talk about that, let me just ask you, were you a fan of the first Shazam?
I have never seen the first Shazam.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
It's one of those things where it got good reviews and a lot of people seem to really like it. It's one of those movies I think we all have where we look at it and think, I'll watch that. I'm going to watch that eventually. And then just that day never came. I'm probably going to watch it again soon because the sequel kind of interests me. And again, I've heard good things.
Okay. Yeah, I quite liked the first Shazam. It's a lot of fun. It's very funny. Shot here in Toronto. But it was good. I really liked it. So I'm into the second one. Again, there's not a whole lot we can talk about because it was just a behind the scenes featurette.
But here's what I thought was interesting about this. That was a little bit more interesting to me than the Aquaman behind the scenes, which we'll get into. But we didn't see, we didn't really see any footage. We saw, of course, just some behind the scenes of guys in suits just doing stuff with nothing around them. It's going to be filled in with CGI later. But what I found kind of interesting was they were showing some concept art and they were kind of talking about where this movie is going to go. Now, again, I haven't seen the original, but my understanding is that most of it takes place, I think, in like Philadelphia. That's where it's set or something.
I can't remember, but they did mention that in the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of set in like a modern city, but this one seems to be like globetrotting quite, going into really much more fantastical settings. It also seems to be leaning very heavily into Greek mythology. Like they talk about all these monsters like dragons and cyclopses and
minotaurs and
harpies and stuff. And then they say that this is going to go to Athens, Greece. It's going to go, to like the underground or whatever, the
underworld or whatever.
The underworld.
I think they said like the realm of the gods and
and again, they were showing some concept art of it, and that has me intrigued. Again, the first one seemed like it was just kind of, a kid who can turn into a superhero, which is kind of like wish fulfillment, kind of fun premise, but it's kind of set in his home world. Now we're seeing just this grand kind of fantasy setting, like this. In Greek mythology is always kind of fun for me. There's just so much to it with the gods and the titans and the creatures that I like that idea. I like that idea of kind of going much more going much further into fantasy.
Mhm.
So what about, did you kind of feel the same way when they were talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, the first movie definitely has elements of fantasy. He sort of goes to the original Wizard Shazam's home world. A little bit of it plays out there, and the sort of the villain, the sort of henchmen of the villain are these kind of demonic figures. That was cool. I like that. And there were moments in that movie that were actually like, I mean, I wasn't scared, but I think little kids would probably be pretty freaked out.
Yeah.
It got pretty dark at times, but yeah, for this one, it does look like they're going a lot more heavily into fantasy and mythology, which I'm all for. Another thing that I didn't even know, Lucy Liu is in this movie. I'm fine with Lucy Liu. I'm not, super psyched for Lucy Liu, but Helen Mirren is the villain.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
Helen Mirren, I mean, especially because she was just in Fast 9, the last Fast and Furious movie. She's at that point in her career where she's like, I've got the money. Not only that, but I've got the accolades. She was she's an extremely well-respected actress on stage and screen. And now she just seems to be having fun. She's like, yeah, give me money. I'll be the villain in your comic book movie. I'll be in the Fast and the Furious. I like that. I dig that. I dig that she's kind of just having fun in this later part of her career.
Yeah. And she's just awesome. There's that
she's awesome.
too.
She's awesome in general.
Yeah. So, I mean, I talk good. I believe that one said it was coming out in 2023.
Yeah.
So it's quite a ways off.
That one, I don't know why. I mean, post-production takes quite a while. That it can, and for big films, it can take close to a year. Maybe if not a little bit more, for post-production. But this thing already wrapped production filming like about a month or two ago.
Okay.
And I don't know why it's taking this long to come out. It's nearly 2 years away. Like it's not even coming like early 2023. It's like mid to late 2023, if not July or something. That's nearly 2 years away. Surely they'll be finished with the entire film well before then, but I don't know.
Well, it might also just be an issue of, it's not, as I'm sure it's not just about when the movie's done, but it's also at what time of year are we going to get the most bang for our buck? Is it going to be too close to the Flash when it's coming out, or they like to space it out?
Yeah,
you're more likely to make good money on a Shazam movie if you put it out, say, in July than if you put it out in, say, November or whatever. And you also don't want to compete. You don't want to have your own two tentpole movies competing for box office and butts and seats, of course. So
true, but it still
does seem really far away.
To put it into context, Aquaman 2 is still filming. It's not done filming, and that's coming out a full 7 months before Shazam. It's coming out in December of 2022. So that's in my mind. I'm like, scheduling wise, why do it that way? Why not have? Why, if you wanted to have Shazam come out later, why put that in production sooner than Aquaman? I don't know. I mean, it's, who knows the machinations of studio execs.
Well, and that's the thing too, because like if they were still leaning really heavily into the whole shared universe thing, maybe it's because something happens in Aquaman 2 that leads into but they're not really doing that. Like my understanding is they're kind of now, since the Justice League debacle, they're kind of treating these all as sort of standalone movies. So yeah, it's odd. One other thing I will say, I know you haven't seen the first movie. I'm sure you've seen trailers and stuff. I don't know if this stood out to you, but one thing that I'd noticed in this little featurette, Shazam's suit looks better. They improved upon the suit because, and I mean, Zachary Levi is no small guy. Like, he was in really good shape, but the suit that he had in the first movie looked really padded. It looked like almost pillowy. And this one looks just a little bit more streamlined. It doesn't look like he's wearing, a garbage bag filled with caulking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's good. I back that.
Yeah, no, I like the little kind of, there's a lot of more detail on the suit. Like there's like little kind of like stitchings or kind of like symbols and stuff like that kind of go
Right.
throughout the red, and all the other kids once they kind of grow up and stuff. So yeah, I mean, looks cool, looks fun. I know we're not going to talk about this one next, but I do want to say, well, we'll kind of circle back in a way, because although this may or may not be connected to Aquaman, seeming as how they kind of like don't really care about the connectivity anymore, like you said, after Justice League, this is connected to Black Adam, which again we'll talk about. But I'm interested to see how these two kind of seemingly tonally different properties are going to mesh together. But
because
we'll get to that.
I don't know much about the Black Adam character, but I do know he is tied to Shazam. Even their costumes are like very, very similar, different colors. But yeah. So let's move on and we'll talk about Aquaman 2. I'm going to do it the same way. What did you think of Aquaman 1?
Oh, I actually liked Aquaman 1. It's a goofy time. It really is quite silly, and I appreciate that, especially coming from the very dark and serious Aquaman that we got from the Justice League. Right. Even Zack Snyder's Justice League. James Wan added so much color, literally color to it, but just so much fun and energy to it. It's not one of my favorite comic book movies. It's just kind of silly, but I had a good time with it. And if they're able to capture kind of the same kind of fun, almost Indiana Jones like, it's Indiana Jones turned up to like 11, because it's very much more like fantasy oriented. If they can keep that kind of feel, just like a fun adventurous romp, then I'm on board.
Now, just as a complete aside, but I was just reminded of this recently. So, and anyone watching this podcast is probably a lover of movies. So you mentioned that it's turned up to 11, which of course is a reference to This Is Spinal Tap, which is one of the funniest movies ever made. Nigel Tufnell is played by Christopher Guest, has an amplifier, a Marshall stack, where all the knobs go to 11. Interesting fun note. On IMDb, if you go to Spinal Tap's page, where there's the audience rating at the top, it's whatever it is, but it's not out of 10, it's out of 11, just for that one movie.
That's awesome.
I think that's awesome.
That's fun.
Anyway, so yeah, Aquaman, the first one, I had a good time with it. I don't know if it's a movie I would watch again, but I did have fun. And they mentioned something in the featurette that I guess if I had known, I'd forgotten about. But Aquaman made the most money out of any of the DCEU movies, like starting from Man of Steel on. It made over $1 billion. None of the rest of them have done that, which is weird because it's Aquaman. Like, you would think a Superman movie would probably make more money. You would think a Wonder Woman movie would probably make more money. You would think a Batman movie would make more money.
Yeah,
it was Aquaman.
I don't know what did it, because I don't know. It didn't seem like it had that much hype leading up to it, but it was one of those. It was also one of those movies that it wasn't front loaded. It wasn't like it made 200 million opening weekend and then petered out.
Right.
It was kind of the opposite. It made like 60, 70, which was respectable, but people just kept going back. Again,
it had legs for sure.
I think it was just, there was a charm to it. It was just kind of silly. It really was kind of like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Brought to life. I'm not rushing out to see it again, but I have a feeling like if I'm in the right mood, I could turn it on and just kind of like, be entertained by it. So we both seem to dig it. I mean, we both seem to like enjoy it enough. We weren't over the moon about it, but this sequel coming out, even before this featurette, were you excited? And after seeing the featurette, has it done anything to lessen or increase your excitement for this movie?
There were two things about this featurette that I really dug. One, and I mean, I just like Jason Momoa. He just seems like a lovely guy.
Yeah.
But I really like, and this, as I recall, this was an element in the first movie. They did suggest that they were kind of turning it up in this one. And Jason Momoa himself is known for being like very environmental, but they made a point of talking about how this movie is going to have that sort of just the idea of environmental responsibility in there in the story. And to see Momoa like right at the beginning, he's kind of talking about that, and you can see like how happy and sort of proud he is that that's a part of it. And I love that. I think that's great. Aside from the whole Helen Mirren thing, which that made me excited because it's Helen Mirren, she's amazing. it didn't really make me more excited. I think a trailer would probably do that better for me. But the one thing that I did like, the one thing that I really liked about it, if you had asked me yesterday, what does Aquaman's theme sound like? I would have been like, I don't remember. I have no idea. And they started playing the music, and immediately, like, sense memory, I was just like, oh yeah, I remember loving the score in that movie.
Isn't
And
it just like a guitar riff?
no, it's like
I can't picture it actually.
yeah,
in
no,
my mind.
it's like dun 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 dun. I shouldn't sing, but I don't know. It's really epic, and it sort of
Okay.
gave me chills. So
Interesting. All right, I didn't notice it, and that's not a slam against the music, but for some reason I didn't pick up on it. I just remember a guitar riff every time Aquaman did anything badass, like it was just that's my guitar noise. Yeah.
Right. No, and maybe that was his badass leitmotif.
Okay.
And then this is like the emotional epic leitmotif. But yeah, I really liked that. Yeah, so I'll see it when it comes out. I'm not super psyched, but
there was a fun shot before I give my thoughts that just looked straight out of it's Rocky 3, where it's him and Apollo Creed are just kind of running towards each other in the ocean.
Okay.
There's a shot of shirtless Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa just running in slow motion on the beach, but it just reminded me so much of Rocky, and I just was imagining them running towards each other and hugging in passion.
That's funny. I didn't make that connection.
That if they do that, it'd be amazing. But yeah, it's not too much from this one, from this featurette. Again, the Shazam one at least kind of brought up how, like, okay, we're gonna go see Athens. There's gonna be more fantasy. This one was just kind of like Aquaman 2 is happening.
Yeah.
Like, okay. It's they were talking. I mean, James Wan was talking about how he was, we're diving even further into the fantasy of it. But the first one was already like full on fantasy. There was giant crabs with machine guns or whatever, and they were
an octopus playing the drums or something.
Yes, yeah. So it's I mean, I don't know how you can get much more fantasy than that. Not that that's an issue. It just I don't know. It seemed, this one seemed very much more like just like regular, just how do I say it, run of the mill talking points of like, this one's gonna be even bigger. We're gonna have even more fantasy. Like,
we're bringing more water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, no, I do want to check it out. I'm glad that they're bringing back Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who is great. He's Black Manta from the first one, who didn't really get much to do, but I've seen him in a lot of stuff since then. He was in the new Candyman. He was in HBO's Watchmen, and he's a great up and coming actor. So I'm hoping that they give him a little bit more to do in this sequel. But
that was just quickly. That was one thing about the first Aquaman that just really bothered me. And again, I did enjoy the movie, but there's that scene, because it's the guy who will become Black Manta and with his father, and they're in the submarine or whatever, and then Aquaman comes in and blah blah blah, and the father's hurt and the place is flooding, and he's like, you have to avenge me, go kill Aquaman. He's like, but if I leave you here, you'll die. And he's like, go avenge me. It's like, help your dad out of the thing. He won't die. His like injuries weren't, as far as I recall, life-threatening at the time. And then go for the revenge. Like, it's just like, let me die, I go for revenge. I was like, what? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'd have to watch that scene again to know if he was like pinned down by something. But
I think he was, but like Black Manta's a big strong dude.
He's a big strong guy. Yeah, no,
take a moment and try.
Fuck, what does that remind me of? I feel like there's a movie like that, where like a comedy where somebody's just like go on without me, and it's like, really, you're fine, like you can come with us. No, go. But yeah, it's
I can't think of what that would be.
There's silly things like that throughout it. It's you kind of have to, it's kind of tongue in cheek, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to suspend disbelief, I suppose, to go with this. So I can imagine the sequel is going to have elements like that as well.
Yeah,
where it's like, what? All right, whatever. He's doing that now, I guess.
All right, shall we move on to Black Adam?
Black Adam, let's do it.
Okay, so again, a character I don't know much about. It is being played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who, I love the guy. He's just a wonderfully charismatic, funny funny, big, giant guy. It's interesting that like they're finally filming this thing because he's been talking about playing this role. I think he was cast in this role like 5 years ago, something like that.
It was longer than that, because
Was it?
I remember talking about him being cast as Black Adam with my roommates in the first apartment that I had when I first moved out to college. The very first apartment I had, I remember talking about it in there with him. So that had to have been nearly 10 years ago. Like I'm really thinking like 2013 when they first announced Batman v Superman at that Comic-Con. So nearly 10 years ago, wow. this guy's been talking about it. And you know, you would think, I thought probably you probably felt the same, that at some point they must have just given up on it. Because you know, they talked about a lot of movies that really just kind of got scrapped. Like they were going to do a Batgirl movie that got scrapped. They were going to do a Cyborg movie that got the axe. But for some reason, I mean, I guess because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson really wanted to be this character, that it despite everything, it's finally getting made, and we get our first little glimpse of it. Not really a teaser; it's more just kind of like an abridged scene that seems probably from the beginning. So, what were your thoughts on this little clip that we saw?
You know, because I'll say it again, I don't know anything about this character. I got a very distinct Apocalypse vibe, like X-Men Apocalypse, Oscar Isaac. I did a little bit of reading, and apparently Black Adam does have ties to like ancient Egypt in some way. But just like he was there with the hieroglyphics and the SWAT teams coming in, and then he's like the way he was rising up, I should say. I don't know. It had an Apocalypse thing to me. It was a cool little scene. I mean, they start firing on him. He catches the bullet and he just sort of like chokes the guy out and turns him into a skeleton. And it was cool. I liked his Sith robe. But it was so little that it's like, I'll see it because I mean, that's my job, but I'm not, that particular teaser didn't make me go like, oh, I need to see Black Adam. I was just like, oh, that's the first thing of Black Adam that I'm seeing. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Pretty similar. I'll say this, like, I haven't really read any comics with the character of Black Adam. I know just through kind of pop culture osmosis that he's kind of like an anti-hero. In some issues or in some storylines, he's pretty much a villain. But, you know, in other issues, he comes around and is more of kind of like a begrudging hero. And I was kind of worried, you know, thinking like, okay, well, The Rock is so, you know, careful about his public persona. He's so calculated about his image, that I wonder if they're gonna kind of squeaky clean this kind of Black Adam character, just kind of make him an outright hero.
Right.
And so I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that they're kind of leaning into the darker nature.
It definitely looked sinister.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he just atomized this dude. He just like incinerated him to the bone.
He black atomized him.
Exactly.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, so similar to you.
Don't look at me. Sorry.
It's not enough to really get me excited, but it's enough to kind of get me interested in seeing more, if that makes any sense. Like I was kind of ambivalent on this project. I was kind of like, I'll wait and see what it's like. And this has me at the very least interested to see a trailer. Like I'd like to see more of it because seems like a pretty big cast. Pierce Brosnan is in this. And there's a bunch of other people in this, so it's not just The Rock doing the Rock thing. So yeah, it looks kind of dark and moody, the atmosphere of it. But again, besides that, not too much else to glean from it. It's coming out. I think this is besides the Batman. I forget when the Flash comes out, but I was going to say this one I think comes out summer of 2022. Okay. So it's not too much longer now. It's coming out in the foreseeable future. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to some actual trailers. I mean, the Flash, it's
still a teaser.
It's still a teaser.
Yeah.
It was weird to me though, because they did a little intro with Ezra Miller, which in my opinion just kind of kept going. Just like, get to the thing. But he's like, we haven't shot a whole lot of stuff yet, so we don't have enough to make a teaser. We don't have enough to make a trailer. And I was like, this is very clearly a teaser trailer. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not like it was a sizzle reel. Like it had the ebbs and flows of like a teaser trailer, but
yeah, it almost seemed like he was like, the intention was to kind of have like a bait and switch, like, oh, we don't really have anything for you. Bam, surprise, actually we do have a teaser.
right.
But it was simultaneously like poorly delivered, and then it wasn't enough of a tease to actually really like have a wow factor.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like a double whammy of like, okay, but there's still some interesting things to talk about with this. It wasn't just nothing. I don't know. What are your overall feelings of this footage so far?
Well, okay, so I'm not a huge fan of the Flash character. Like I have nothing against him, but like
Mhm.
he's not a Batman for me.
Yeah.
I like Ezra Miller in the role. I think he's fine. Actually, I liked him in Zack Snyder's Justice League more than I did the Justice League. But
Yeah.
There is one reason and one reason only that I am psyched for this movie, and I think you know what that is.
Mhm.
It's Michael Keaton coming back as Batman.
Yeah, man.
And I didn't notice this. Somebody pointed this. My buddy Andrew pointed this out to me. That in that there's one shot where there are two Barry Allens in the same shot. They're both
Yeah.
Ezra Millers. I don't know how I didn't see that, but that's kind of interesting because we get the idea that they're sort of doing the Flashpoint paradox or multiverse kind of thing. Hence, because there's also talk that Ben Affleck's Batman's going to be a small part of this as well. But you know, we hear Michael Keaton right off the top. Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne is essentially narrating this trailer. He's talking presumably to Barry, saying, you know, you have the ability to go to any universe, blah, 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 why pick this one to save? And we sort of see, as we're hearing that, we're seeing shots of a Wayne Manor. It's not, at least the building to me doesn't look like the Wayne Manor from Batman 89 or Batman Returns.
The interior kind of did. I meant to go back and try to find some screenshots from the original 89 Manor, but it looked familiar. I think that was intentional. I shouldn't say anything because I'm not 100%, but I'll probably message you afterwards and be like, oh, it's the same stairwell.
Okay. But, yeah, it didn't look familiar to me, but it's been a while since I've watched either of those movies. Same. And I do remember the house in Returns was like completely different.
Yeah.
Like the exterior looked absolutely completely different. But but so we hear Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne talking. We see the manor. We see Cowl lying on the ground. And I don't know if you caught this, but right in the beginning of the trailer, at the end of the trailer, it's whatever Flash's theme is, whatever the music theme for this movie is. But the very beginning of the trailer, teaser, I should say, they were using some of Danny Elfman's Batman music. Not the iconic, but like some of the stuff, like as soon as I heard it, I was like, I'm pretty sure. Maybe my mind's playing tricks on me. And then I listened again. I was like, that's totally it.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know who is scoring this movie as of yet. I don't imagine it's Danny Elfman, but you know, Warner Brothers owns it. So that gave me a little bit of a chill. And of course, we get that one wicked moment where, and I noticed that we basically see Batman back to the camera, walk into frame. So you only see like the back of his cowl. But I noticed that they really pumped the sound effects on his footsteps to like make it this sort of imposing thing, which is funny because like Michael Keaton, and I love him as Batman, he's not a big guy. That was one of the reasons when Michael Keaton was cast, people were pissed because he was kind of a comedic actor and he wasn't a big dude. And then he was fucking awesome. But I liked that. And then we see the cowl come into frame and you're only seeing it from the back, but just the shape of it is so iconic.
Yeah. It looks great.
It does.
So yeah, I'm excited for this. I how to say it? I was interested, especially because they got Andy Muschietti to direct this, who directed the two It movies. And even though It Part 2 wasn't as good, I still felt like both of them combined were a great adaptation of Stephen King's novel.
Mhm.
And he's a very stylish director. So bringing him on for this project, I thought was a really smart move. I like you. I'm not in love with the Flash character, but I do like Ezra Miller as Barry Allen in this. And I also noticed as well towards the end that it was Barry Allen that had a kind of a similar haircut to what he had in Justice League, the real one, Zack Snyder's Justice League, with kind of a shorter cut, and then the other Barry Allen, also played by Ezra Miller in the back, with longer hair, and he kind of looked maybe a little bit older, maybe a little grungier, like 90s grunge for some reason.
Well, that's kind of what he looked like in BVS when they find the footage of him in the so he had long hair and like a kind of scruffy beard.
So maybe it was older. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but also in that frame, who was it? I'm trying to pull up the actress, but she was cast. Oh, it's Sasha Calle, Calle, and she plays Supergirl. So but even before this trailer came out, I was on board with how kind of comic booky it was going to get,
right.
Because it was very clear that they were doing kind of a Flashpoint, a riff on the comic series of Flashpoint. For those who don't know, it's a very famous kind of run of Flash comics. It's been adapted into graphic novels and adapted into cartoons, essentially of Barry Allen using his Speed Force to manipulate time, but also go into other kind of dimensions. So he's going into alternate kind of Earths. And DC Comics, similar to what Marvel's doing, I'm not saying that they copied each other or anything, but it's similar in the sense that there's going to be alternate realities. So I knew off the bat we're going to get multiple Flashes. We're going to get Michael Keaton as Batman. We're going to get Ben Affleck as Batman. I don't know how big of Ben Affleck's role it's going to be, but there was some early reports saying that Michael Keaton's role, they compared it this way, which I thought was a good way of framing my anticipation of it.
I remember exactly.
Yeah, so it said Michael Keaton's role in this film is akin to Sean Connery's role in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So he's not the lead, but he's a central figure in it. He's like the supporting cast member. That's kind of like a father figure. And that got me really excited because at the end of the day, this is a Flash movie, and it would feel kind of cheapened if they just kind of sidelined Barry Allen.
Yeah.
So I'm glad but at the same time, I'm glad that Michael Keaton's not just in this for like a scene or two, and he's going to be back in the suit, man. That's like you said, that's the main draw. It's which sucks, but I mean, sorry, Ezra Miller, but really just seeing Michael Keaton back, seeing the iconic costume, the Batmobile, which they teased at the end. They didn't show us, but you could still tell it was under that sheet, and you just tell by the shape of it. Like, I know what that is.
The fins at the back, and
oh man, dude, that's
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, that's got me very excited. Because really, that's kind of that's the Batman that I kind of grew up with. I mean, like all four of the originals, I suppose. The two by Joel Schumacher as well. But of course, even as a kid, I gravitated more towards Tim Burton's versions with Michael Keaton. And even though they're no longer my favorite iteration or cinematic iteration of the character, they still hold like a very strong nostalgic place in my heart.
Yeah.
And Michael Keaton's just great in everything. Like, put him in anything, he's gonna elevate it just by a little bit. So yeah, besides that, it was still a very early tease. I am going to look up when this is coming out. I know it's 2022.
Okay.
But November. So we still have quite a while. It's a little bit over a year from now. So it's probably going to be a bit before we get any more footage. The one thing I will say, just show us Michael Keaton's face. We know he's in it. We know he's in it. This isn't like a surprise that you're holding out. Just give it to us. Just like a glimpse of him in the cowl. But it's okay.
I believe he's wrapped shooting on the movie too.
Yeah.
I think I heard that recently.
Yeah. They're still in production, so that's why there's not much left. I mean, there wasn't too much of finished footage that they could have shown us, but I'm sure they had a shot or two. Anyway, that's a nitpick. This was just an early taste, and it did the trick. It got me more excited for this than I already was.
My one other thing I want to add, and I did a trailer reaction, there's one thing that I said, I don't love the Flash's new suit. It's got that weird, like, glowy piping. Granted, I didn't love his suit in Justice League either, but I don't know, there's something just felt weird to me. It might be a thing that, it'll just take some getting used to, but
yeah, kind of looks Tron-y. Kind of looks like a
totally.
Tron suit.
Absolutely.
One other thing that someone else brought up. So, okay, I'm gonna pose this as a possibility that some people are talking about, even though I'm 99% sure this is not what's going to happen.
Okay.
But they show, Michael Keaton's Batman rocking up in a bat cave with a waterfall. And I don't think he had a waterfall in the Tim Burton movies. And
not that I remember.
This one I did go back. Unlike The Mansion, I did go back, and there's just a lot of caverns and shit. It looks very, I don't know. So a lot of people were like, is Christian Bale's Batman going to be in this? Because this looks like his Batcave. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. If that was the case, that's probably one of the best kept secrets in Hollywood,
right.
That Christian Bale's in this movie and nobody knows. I think what I think is more likely about this, about him having a kind of a cave with like light coming through the waterfall, is just that just screams Batman. Like a cave entrance into a cave waterfall entrance into the Batcave is something that's been synonymous with the character. So even if it wasn't originally in the Tim Burton movies, you've seen it in the Batman the Animated Series. We've seen it in comics and other animated shows and the Batman, yada, yada, yada. So I don't think that there's anything. I don't think that was like an Easter egg for Christian Bale to show up here.
Right. And also, I mean, like this version of Bruce Wayne is like presumably like in his 60s. So
yeah,
maybe he just had a waterfall installed because he liked the sound. It's very it's very centering.
Exactly.
But yeah, that would be cool if like Christian Bale showed up.
Dude, if he here's the thing. At one point, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, on one hand, it'd be kind of cool. On the other hand, just kind of leave that trilogy alone.
Yeah.
Just kind of keep it something.
And it could get a little bit ridiculous if you have like 15 Batman running around. But if you're going to do it, please be the Batman Begins suit, because it's so much better than the Dark Knight Rises suits. I don't like those.
Oh, no.
The Batman Begins suit may be my favorite bat suit of all time. I love that suit.
I think I think there might be a contender coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's in regards to our next topic, there might be a contender coming up. It's a little too early to tell, but that pretty much wraps it for all the other stuff from DC Fandome. And now onto the main event, the thing that we've been waiting for. It's been over a year since the last trailer.
Yep.
The Batman.
The Batman. You want to start?
Shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit is how I'm going to start. So I've already been excited. Already been massively excited for this. I was excited when they announced it. I think Matt Reeves is a terrific director. I love
those two Apes movies, man.
Yeah, man. Robert Pattinson is terrific. I know some people when he was first cast were, no, the guy from Twilight, and I think that's died down a bit, partially because this movie's been in production for so long that I think people have like seen him in other things now and realize, oh, this dude can act. And so, yeah, I was already on board. The trailer that they showed at the last DC Fandome was technically a teaser, and it was comprised of footage that Matt Reeves said that they only completed about maybe a quarter of the production at that time.
Yeah. And
so that teaser was really only from like, comprised of 25% of the finished footage. And it was already it was so much. It wasn't a little tease like The Flash that we got. It wasn't a little tease like Black Adam. It was a trailer that solidified a tone and a mood. It had Something in the Way by Nirvana that was kind of underscored by the new score, which we will touch on because I'm sure you have thoughts on it.
Oh, you're goddamn right.
Who composed the score again?
Michael Giacchino.
There you go. I had a feeling. So Michael Giacchino, who is been coming up for a bit. He's did a lot of like the Star Trek, the movie themes.
He's the new Spider-Man guy.
Yeah, no, he's a great composer. I think this is a great choice.
Let me just interject for 1 second.
Yeah,
My girlfriend says she likes the bat suit with the nipples.
I mean, clearly
Yeah,
that's
that's the pinnacle.
yeah, that's the benchmark that you can't surpass it. Okay,
That's the nippical. I got to stop making puns, man. I'm gonna get hurt. Sorry. So you were saying, yeah.
I was saying Michael Giacchino, amazing. So I was already on board, and I would waiting for this trailer, watched all of DC Fandom for like 4 hours, and it did not disappoint. What a fucking trailer, man. This looks fantastic. It really does. Like, just everything about it has me excited. Everything from the way that it looks, the direction, the casting, the music, the tone. This is really kind of the Batman movie that I've wanted for so long, for years. It simultaneously feels like a new cinematic interpretation of the character, while also somehow being closer to the comics and to the animated series in a way. Like, it feels more stylized than Christopher Nolan's films, but in a good way. I'm deliriously, I can't even say that, deliriously excited for this.
Yeah.
Let me hear your thoughts before we get into specifics.
Like you, I thought that first trailer was great. I loved the way they sort of mixed the Nirvana song with the score, played them off one another. They did that again in this trailer. This trailer, we get so much more. I think this is an even better trailer than that one. It's a great trailer too, because it really doesn't give much of the story away at all. It introduces us to the characters. There's like so much to talk about in this trailer. You were saying about the suit. I don't love this suit yet. I'm hoping I will get more used to it. Most of it I think is cool. There's something about the eyes and the ears. The ears look from some angles really cool, and other angles they look kind of skinny and pointy. And but again, there is speculation that this. Well, we do know this is a very early Batman. It's not an origin story, but it's kind of year 2. He's still figuring it out.
Yeah, that's what Matt Reeves said, that it's not the origin story, but it's like Batman year 2. So he's not just starting out, but he's still not like the seasoned veteran at the game yet.
Yeah. So I don't love the suit yet. I'm sure it'll grow on me. And it's hard to tell from a trailer, like once you see it in the full film. And there's always the possibility, as they like to do, because toys, there's a distinct possibility that he'll upgrade the suit in this movie or in the next one. So
for sure. Yeah. I mean, at the very least in sequels, I mean, even the original, I mean, even from 1989 Batman to Batman Returns, there were changes to that suit. So yeah, that's fair.
The only other thing I don't like, and it's partly the line. The line isn't really the issue for me. It is the way Pattinson delivers the line. And I do like the idea. We have some Batmen like Michael Keaton, say, who are very calm all the time. He always spoke in a whisper. And then you have, where's the trigger? Whatever. I don't mind a Batman, particularly a young Batman who, has still a lot of rage issues and loses his control. I think it's just the way Pattinson delivered the line, and who knows, maybe they'll use a different take in the final film, or maybe that scene won't even make it, because there's talk that the first assembly cut was like 3 hours long and Warner Brothers wants to be considerably cut down. But he's talking to Riddler is in custody, and he's saying, I've been wanting to get in touch with you. And Batman just pounds the glass and goes like, what have you done? And I don't know, there's something about the delivery of that line that I just don't like. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, because I noticed it. It's it's something about the sound of it, because it's like it's from the opposite side of the glass, so it sounds kind of like muffled. And I'm like, I can imagine if we heard it from his side, it would have sounded like much more menacing. But as it did, it was a little bit like
right.
But because the first time I watched it, I didn't even know what he said.
Yeah, me neither. I thought he said something like, I'll kill you or something.
Yeah. But I will say this. I liked the intensity of it, because and I think that it was emblematic of the rest of how he was portrayed in this trailer, where he is pissed. It seems like, it's like the interrogation scene from The Dark Knight, that level of anger when he's just fucking wailing on the Joker. Where are they? But that seems to be Robert Pattinson's Batman's like main mode. That
Right.
seems just to be, he's just that pissed all the time. So I can understand about like it sounded kind of odd, but at the same time, I watched it a bunch of times so far, this trailer. He's so pissed. He's so mad. And it looks like he kind of even like cracks the glass a little bit. So I love the intensity of it because it really felt like, dude, if they were in the same room together, he would just rip him apart. He wouldn't, Jim Gordon was scared for the Joker in The Dark Knight, but Batman really just kind of punched him a couple times. I feel like this Batman would have just ripped him limb from limb if he was in the same room. He's so bad. Angry Pattinson. And I dig that.
Now I should interject again because I forgot. We got to let Andris have his say. I was going to do that off the top of this topic. So we're going to take a quick pause, edit in. Chris hasn't heard his thoughts, so we're not going to be able to talk about what he has to say, but we're going to let you guys see what Andris has to say, and we'll be right back.
Ooh, it's a spooky video from beyond. And when I say that, I mean I previously shot this because I'm at work today. Anyway, Court gave me the opportunity to give my 2 cents on the new trailer for The Batman. Looking good, looking fun. I like how everything looks really rickety and exposed, and it feels like a cross between Burton's 1989 one-man war Batman and Christopher Nolan's gritty, hyper-realistic Dark Knight trilogy combined. Looking interesting, looking fun. Can't wait to see it. I'm also interested. Does that mean that the Riddler is a barista? Because he's putting question marks in the coffee. We'll find out soon enough. And now back to these fine gentlemen who are in a well-lit room. Because I'm not in a well-lit room. This is dark. I'm in darkness. Because I'm from the beyond.
And we're back. So that's what Andris thought of the trailer. Anyway, Chris, where were we?
The trailer looks great. So right off the bat, I want to kind of we don't have to hit every beat, but just some things I want to mention. It's how much of a David Fincher vibe is throughout this. Like, so right off in the beginning, great way to open it, where it's just pouring rain. It looks like this dark, dingy kind of like Soho kind of part of like if you were to go to New York or London or anything. I think everyone, like every big metropolitan city kind of has that kind of a shady place. And it's at this cafe, and the SWAT team comes in and they arrest the Riddler. And there's just a little shot of the Riddler being slammed onto the counter. But it's framed in a way that Fincher does quite often, where it's hard to explain, but it's essentially the camera is pulled back a bit. And although the action is center framed, it's not necessarily the focus. And it kind of gives you a nice voyeuristic feeling, where essentially like it makes you feel almost like you're at that diner in another booth and you're watching this happening. And it's just little things like that where it's like it's kind of cold and kind of sterile. And it gives you this eerie Seven vibe from like David Fincher. And I got that from just the opening, and you feel that throughout. Where the Riddler, I apologize, really is not going to be this cane twirling Jim Carrey like figure. He is a sadistic, manipulative, crazy serial killer. And that's frightening. You know, like it's simultaneously like it makes perfect. It's one of those things where if you were to ask me before this movie had come out, before I'd seen anything about one of the scariest Batman villains, the Riddler probably wouldn't come to mind.
No.
But at the same time, now after seeing this, it's sort of like I feel like it's an inspired choice because it fits so well. I'm like, yeah, I think this character, especially considering how a lot of real life serial killers like the Zodiac killer did shit just like this. Really sent, taunting notes to the police, sent little codes to be deconstructed, little riddles. Again, it wouldn't be my first thought or my first thought of how to interpret this character. But now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, that fits so well.
Yeah. While we're talking about villains, I think we should certainly talk about Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Man.
And in that first trailer, there were a couple of shots of Penguin, but at that time nobody necessarily knew. It actually came down to, I think, the makeup guy went on Instagram with a picture. He was like, "Yep, that's Colin Farrell. That's my work." It is insane to me. I watched a review of the trailer by Jeremy Johns, and he said that Jim Carrey as the Grinch looks more like Jim Carrey than Colin Farrell as the Penguin looks like Colin Farrell. And it's true. Like, I look at those images and I don't see Colin, not even in the eyes. Like, I don't see Colin Farrell in there at all. And then he's got that sort of like almost like a James Cagney kind of like New York accent.
Oh, dude.
Take it easy, sweetheart.
Oh my God. I love it. That voice, because, you know, it's simultaneously props to the makeup department, because physically he is unrecognizable, but also just his voice. Kudos to Colin Farrell, who I've always loved. I think he's a tremendous talent. He is unrecognizable in his actions, in his voice, like I swear to God, if you played just that audio clip of like, "Hey, take it easy, sweetheart," never in a million years would have been like, "Oh yeah, Colin Farrell." And then at the end, you know, when he's in the car and he's like, "I got you," like, what a performance. And I'm so excited to see more of him. He's talked about how he's not in it a ton, so I have a feeling that the Penguin is going to be. He's not the main villain. I think it's the Riddler, obviously, but for whatever scenes we get of him, I'm beyond stoked. Truly one of like, it's one of those few times when you can say 100% unrecognizable.
Yeah, absolutely. Just while we're talking about that moment in the car, that shot at the end where he's in the car, he's flipped upside down, and you just see Batman, and the camera's upside down, so Batman's upside down, walking towards the car in the rain with his cape flowing and the explosion behind him. Like, what a fucking money shot that was.
So cool, dude. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah, it's so badass. And it's what I love about this again is how stylized it is, because Matt Reeves talked about grounding it in reality a lot, which he does, but he's also keeping it stylized, because there's a lot of like imagery that looks dark and gritty, but it also looks like this could be a splash page on a comics panel, because it's just so perfectly shot and executed. Like that ending, just Batman, like you said, walking upside down with the fire behind him. How cool is that? The cinematographer for this is Greg Fraser, who I could be mispronouncing. Let me see. Grieg. It's Greig. So he's coming up. I guarantee you this is going to be a guy that's going to be talked about on the level of Roger Deakins pretty soon, because he shot Rogue One, which a lot of people, myself included, think is one of the best looking Star Wars films. He is the cinematographer for Dune coming out.
Wow.
Which, you know, all the reviews so far, even the negative ones, have been saying it's like a visual marvel.
Right.
And now he's the cinematographer for the Batman, and it looks incredible. Like that's
a resume right there, right?
Yeah, this dude's coming up, and there's so many shots, like, you know, Batman and Catwoman silhouetted on the rooftop.
Yeah, that's right out of a comic book for sure. Yeah.
I mean, we'll touch on, we'll get to Catwoman, because I have a lot to say about her. But there's like one shot that's really sticking out in my mind. It's very brief, but it's Batman. He lights up a flare, and it's a red flare, and then it's a top down view of him walking what seems to be in water, leading with. And there's like a bunch of people behind him, and I don't know if these are goons that are trying to attack him. I don't know if they're police officers.
It looks like he's kind of leading a charge, but you're right, it goes by so fast.
But just like looking at it's just so like evocative, and it's so again, it's so stylized, but in a terrific way.
Right.
You and I are both massive fans of the Christopher Nolan trilogy. But that really feels like, especially after seeing all of Christopher Nolan's filmography, those movies definitely feel like Christopher Nolan, the filmmaker, his interpretation of the Batman comics. Whereas this one really does, again, it simultaneously feels like this is a new cinematic interpretation, but it also feels somehow much closer to the comics and to the animated series that that I grew up with. It's walking that balance really perfectly for me.
Another moment. This is probably my favorite moment in the entire trailer. Because it almost, it almost feels like a horror film, which is the moment where they're in the tunnel and the goons are just machine gun firing on Batman, and that's the only illumination. So when the guns aren't firing, it's pitch black, and he's just what it actually kind of reminds me of. Speaking of Rogue One, Vader's scene at the end of Rogue One, where Batman's just like walking through it, not a care in the world, just takes them down. I love that moment. I can't wait to see that in all of its glory.
Yeah, and it also reminded me of The Dark Knight Rises, and it was like there's a similar moment. It's not like a full sequence, but there's a moment in that towards the middle where Batman is coming
walking with Catwoman in the sewers.
Yeah, and he comes through a dark tunnel and someone's shooting at him, and he's kind of dodging it, and you only kind of briefly see glimpses of him.
He's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, so it's really it's similar, but it's also like a different take, because in Nolan's version, it was kind of him sneaking around and kind of dodging the bullets. This is Batman as a tank with we've seen him even prior to this moment in this trailer being shot at point blank range like it's nothing.
Yeah, and
he's just walking, and they're trying to mow him down, and just I don't know what this suit is made out of, vibranium or unobtainium, whatever. Right. But he's like a tank. And so instead of dodging it, he just walks forward and just beats the shit out of him. So it reminded me of that, but in a good way. It was like, it's different. It's like, this is a different Batman. He's going to lay waste to some fools and not just kind of sneak around.
Yeah. You wanted to talk about Catwoman.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I knew that she was in it, but leading into this trailer, it was Matt Reeves in the panel for Fandome. It was Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, and Zoe Kravitz. So that already kind of tipped me off in the way that they were talking. That's like, okay, I think Catwoman's probably going to be a major part in this. And through the trailer, it made it seem like she is a significant part in this. It doesn't just seem like the Penguin, or we know that I think Carmine Falcone is also in this, played by John Turturro. We haven't seen anything of him yet, so I have a feeling like he's not going to be a major role in it. But yeah, I got the impression that Selena Kyle and Catwoman are going to be like almost like a co-lead at part. Like it seemed like, because they showed her in multiple different sections. It wasn't just like one scene. It was like they meet on the rooftop, and they're in a nightclub, and then they're in this like factory. It seems like she's going to be in it throughout. And we didn't get too much of her, but plays it well. I mean, she looks the part perfectly. Absolutely. She's stunning. I just want to see more of the cat ears. That's the only thing. But she's got the long kind of claws. She's got the physicality of it down. And yeah, I'm and got that flirtatiousness with Batman. Again, it's one of those elements from the comics that I've wanted to see on the screen, and we got a bit of it. We got a bit of it in Batman Returns, and we got a bit of it in The Dark Knight Rises. And I'm hoping that this really kind of hits it home with that, because I love the character of Selena Kyle, and I love the character of Catwoman.
Absolutely. And I really like it's cool because there's not a lot in this trailer that's recycled from the first one. There are a couple of shots.
Yeah.
But it's cool because, in the first trailer, and it's the money shot of the first trailer, but where the one goon is like, the hell are you supposed to be? And Batman just does that beat down. And once the guy's on the ground, he still goes for like a couple more. And he says, I'm vengeance.
Yeah.
This trailer uses that again, but it kind of recontextualizes it. And I do think that line is probably from that scene.
Yeah.
But they played in this trailer in a cool way where Catwoman's talking to Batman and she's touching him on the head. She's like, who are you under here? And then a couple cool shots. And then I'm vengeance, which in a weird way kind of, and maybe this is me just thinking too much, but for me, that kind of almost suggests, like, the way that line plays off to that line almost suggests to me that, like, that's kind of the essence of who this Batman is vengeance. Like, that's his driving force. Like, you can say it to a goon because it sounds cool, but like playing it off the line of like, who are you under here? She's like touching him on the forehead. Like, that's who he is. He's not a guy who's trying to like, all he is focused on vengeance, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Again, he just seems so angry at this point. And I think that they're gearing up for a trilogy. So I'm sure there's going to be like a massive arc, but so like at this chapter in this guy's life, he's just pissed. And yeah, and even though, you know, like you said, it was different kind of scenes kind of stitched together, I think that it conveyed a truth that's going to be in the film, which is
Right.
he's not, again, he's not out there even necessarily just for kind of like the honor of it, like I must revenge my parents. It's he's pissed. He is angry at the seedy underbelly of Gotham, and he has no time for antics with this woman.
And it sort of gave me the impression, kind of like what you were saying, is like he's not even necessarily out there to help people. I mean, like, I'm sure that's part of it, but another part of it is being Batman and beating these fools to a pulp. Like, that's what he needs to do because his psyche is so broken. It's all he knows is that's how he gets his rage out. This could be a really fucking special movie, man.
Yeah, I have a couple more things to say. I don't know about you. One, this is a brief thing, but it's similar to that. There was another shot similar to the first trailer. It wasn't the same moment, but it was a moment of just Batman just wailing on this dude. And then right behind him is Catwoman, and she has this look on her face like, this guy is crazy.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, you got, check it out again. Like, cause he's just like 1, 2, 3. And then it cuts on her and she's just kind of like it's not overstated, but it really is just kind of her like, oh, he's killing this dude right in front of me. And I just love that. Again, it just kind of captures the anger of this guy. One thing I do want to say, if there is a complaint that I have, this is kind of a nitpick, but it was
is it because he was a vampire?
Yeah, I mean, he's just gonna sparkle in the sunlight. It's stupid. No, so we see a little bit of Andy Serkis as Alfred, which I like. I like that casting. Andy Serkis is great. They're kind of doing like an Aunt May thing, which with every adaptation of Batman, they're just making Alfred younger, and sexier. No. So, but you know what? Something in look, this may not even be an issue with the final film, but they kind of showed like the one kind of interaction that they showed with Alfred was between him and Bruce, was Alfred essentially being like, I forget the actual lines, but it was essentially like, you can't keep doing this forever kind of thing. That sounded more like Scottish.
Yes, it did.
But essentially, it just reminded me of the same kind of conversation that Michael Caine's Alfred had with Christian Bale in The Dark Knight. And that's not the only dynamic that Alfred has with Bruce. Like for a lot of it, Alfred is going along with it. And since this is still just like year 2, it seems kind of odd that Alfred is already kind of giving him the talks of like, you can't keep doing this. And it's like we've seen that element of Alfred. How about maybe in this one he's still kind of begrudgingly going along with Bruce's antics because he loves Bruce. He's kind of like his ward. And then as the series goes on, he kind of is like, oh, let's stop. Did you notice that at all, that it seemed kind of familiar with The Dark Knight?
I didn't really think about that. No. Okay. That didn't occur to me. I do. And again, like you, I'm an Andy Serkis fan, but I do really like the way he looks as a character.
Oh yeah.
And I do remember reading somewhere where like, I think they're going to get a little bit more into like Alfred's history as like kind of a military guy, and maybe he's helped train Bruce in some ways. And I think he's going to maybe be a bit more of a grease monkey with the car. And we should also mention the car. We get a little bit more of the car in this trailer.
Yeah. It's cool. Like, you know, with every cinematic Batman comes a new Batmobile. And again, this one still, it feels very much like what Matt Reeves was saying, which is this is still not a Batman that's seasoned. He's not at the top of his game yet. So yeah, at the moment, the Batmobile just looks like a souped up muscle car, which is cool. To me, it looks really cool because it's not as kind of cartoony as the Tim Burton ones, which is still awesome and the most iconic. It's not as militarized as like Christian Bale's. This really does look like a Mustang or a Camaro that's just been souped up with a rocket engine. It looks badass to me, dude.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to mention?
I don't know. I just we kind of touched on up top, but the score it's already kind of becoming iconic because we first heard this theme with the initial screen test, which feels like forever ago.
Yes, it
And
does.
I remember at the time it was kind of like lower key, like a piano, like dun dun dun, and we were like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. I can dig it. Can't wait to hear more. Then we kind of heard it blended together with Nirvana in the last trailer, but this one they really brought it in the brass and in the epicness of it. Dude, this is fantastic. This score, this theme is so epic, and it just evokes this kind of like feeling of gothicness that Batman is synonymous with. So yeah, I love the score. I'm assuming that you got goosebumps listening to it as well.
You have no idea.
Yeah, man. Look, we're comic book nerds. We're nerds. We're Batman nerds, and it's as nerds are wont to do. Yeah, there you go. As nerds are wont to do, we always have to make hyperbolic statements, or we always have to. We always want to rank our things. We always want to rank the movies, and say this one's better than that one. And I know it's kind of unfair. This is just a trailer, but it's been 14 years, Court, or by the time this comes out, it's going to be 14 years since The Dark Knight came out, which is painful to say out loud. But my point is that it's been quite a while. Do you think that it's possible that this could usurp The Dark Knight as what in a lot of people's minds the best Batman film?
Well, I mean, anything's possible. I know, and there has been, ever since that first trailer, there has been that little voice inside of me going like, this could end up being the best Batman movie ever made. And I'm always saying to that voice, shut the fuck up. I don't want to get my hopes up that much.
That's exactly. Yeah. But, because then anything other than the best Batman movie ever, and it's a disappointment. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, listen, it looks really, really good. One thing that I like is that they let Matt Reeves take a long time to write this thing.
Yes.
I think I don't think he turned in a final draft until I think it was about a couple of years after Ben Affleck left and he came on.
I was just thinking that because I didn't look this up specifically, but I kind of just went through the Wikipedia page. I was just kind of reading up on it. And they were, and for the production element of it, they have kind of like a timeline of events. And you're not kidding. He had like probably up to a year, if not more, to really finalize it. Like he turned in a first draft, but then there was like elements where it's like months later, he was like, yeah, I'm still working on it. Right. And they brought in another screenwriter to kind of work together with him. And so I really do feel like to your point that I'm sure you're going to get to, is that they took their damn time crafting this from the ground up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's very possible, even likely, that this movie is going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's likely to top The Dark Knight for me, because The Dark Knight is one of my favorite films of all time. I have very little doubt that I'm going to love this movie.
Yeah.
Like I think this is going to be awesome. I haven't seen anything about it that I don't like. We mentioned John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. I mean, that's a pretty perfect casting right there. Oh, yeah. I love it.
We didn't see much of Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, but Jeffrey Wright is fantastic.
I love that casting.
Love that casting. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks great. I'm psyched. And the crazy thing is, because we've been waiting for this movie for a long, long time. It's less than 6 months away.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. It was supposed to come out this month, but that's all right. 5 months, 5 months later. So we're more than halfway through October, and this comes out early March, like first weekend of March. I can't wait. Like kind of want to keep your expectations in check. If you like, oh, this has to be better than The Dark Knight, otherwise I'm disappointed. That's right. That's not the way to go about it. But yeah, I think
just give me a really good Batman movie. I'll be happy.
Again, since 14 years ago, there hasn't been a movie that I even thought would really kind of, as far as the Batman movie, that I really thought could kind of be a better interpretation of the character for me.
Right.
And even when they announced Ben Affleck, and I like Ben Affleck and Batman v Superman, whatever, I never had that thought. I was always like assured, like, okay, yeah, the Dark Knight's going to be the king of that. This is the first time where I'm like, I don't know, man, if this movie delivers on what the trailer is promising, this could be, if not a better movie, it would be a closer interpretation to what Batman means to me in my soul, in my heart, than even The Dark Knight did. So, well, I don't know. We'll have to see. Very excited.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we did it.
We did it.
Yeah, so that's the show for today. Before I do my little ending of the show rigmarole, Chris, where can people follow you online?
They can follow me on my Instagram account. It's called Art of Light and Shadow. It's a daily cinema blog where I kind of go over all the movies that I'm watching, have fun community-based events of people voting on and making lists of favorite films. Right now, I'm doing kind of like a history of horror movies in honor of Halloween. So it's a lot of fun. Come check it out. Art of Light and Shadow.
Of course, Andris wasn't here, although briefly he was.
He was in spirit.
He was in spirit. Andris wasn't here today, but if you want to check out his stuff, go on YouTube, do a search for Cheap Thrills, Unspeakable Terror. He reviews sort of horror, B movies, low budget kind of stuff from the dawn of cinema to the modern era. A great little channel. I'm a big fan of it. You're already on my channel, so you know where to find me. Although if you want to see my occasional tweets, at Courtshake on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, if you're on my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, I'd sure love you if you did. Of course, we want to encourage you guys to drop a like on this video, share it around, help grow the channel. That would be most appreciated. And of course, jump into the comments, tell us what you thought about that Batman trailer or anything else that we talked about, but mostly the Batman trailer. I want to know.
Of course.
And again, let you know that, of course, you can get audio only versions of this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, a few other places if you want to look around. I'll have links down below. And that's pretty much it. We want to say to everybody, we hope you guys are all staying safe, staying healthy, taking care of each other. And we'll see you guys very soon. Thank you for watching and take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye now.